265.25 kilograms in a black Toyota Sienna bus, which is one of the three vehicles in the container marked MSMU 6029570 coming from Montreal, Canada. The seizure was made during 100% joint examination with men of customs service and other stakeholders. The following day, Thursday, 8 August, the operatives recorded yet another seizure of 75 parcels of same substance weighing 37.5 kilograms in a container marked FSCU 9274613 that came from Canada. In Adamawa State, NDLEA operatives on Thursday, 8 August, with the support of men of Operation Farauta Sector 3, Mayobelwa, arrested 49-year-old Joseph Peter with 425 compressed blocks of cannabis sativa weighing 291.200 kilograms in his Toyota Camry car marked Lagos, KSF 381HM. He claimed he was bringing the consignment from Edo. Diabayo 50 and Yahaya Mahmuda 35 were arrested at Gadar Tamburawa area of Kano on Tuesday 6 August with 29.5 kilograms cannabis. NDLEA operatives in Lagos recovered 1,169 kilograms of the same psychoactive substance from a bus along Ochij Road, Ajah on Sunday 4th August. No less than 1,230 kilograms cannabis was destroyed on 3 hectares of farmland at Ikeje Forest, Edimogo Village. Supported by men of the Nigerian army, while the owner, Danjuma Maji 40, was arrested. While commending the officers and men of the Special Operations Unit, Tinkan, Lagos, Edo, Kano, Kogi, and Adamawa commands, as well as those of the Directorate of Operations and General Investigations (DOGI) for the arrest and seizures, Chairman Chief Executive Officer of NDLEA, Brigadier General Mohammed Buba Mara, retired, urged them and their compatriots across the country to continue with their current balanced approach to drug supply reduction and drug demand reduction efforts. That's it on arrest and seizures. Now, here are some of the wider activities across the country for the week. Over to you, Comfort.
Thank you, Netta. My name is Comfort Falanshaw, and here are some of the wider activities across the country for the week. The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, through the War Against Drug Abuse wider social advocacy initiatives, continues to confront the struggle of drug trafficking and substance abuse using evidence-based preventive approaches. Every week, command of the agency facilitates drug sensitization activities nationwide, raising awareness and securing community support to prevent drug abuse in the country. On Wednesday, 7th August 2024, the Anambra State Command delivered a water sensitization lecture at Nado Community, Anambra East Local Government Area, after which a Community Drug Control Committee was inaugurated to sustain the efforts of community in fighting the drug scourge. The Kwara State Command on Thursday, 8 August, paid a water advocacy visit to the Emir of Ilorin, His Royal Highness Alhaji Ibrahim Salu Gambari, emphasizing the importance of collaborative effort in combating drug abuse. On Friday, 19 August, while the Ekiti State Command gave a water sensitization lecture to members of Ansaruddin Muslim Society of Nigeria in Ado Ekiti, the Oyo State Command delivered a similar lecture to women of Owowe Solu Islamic Center, Saki. The advocacy and sensitization visit was concluded on Saturday, 10th August, when the Enugu State Command paid a water advocacy visit to the chairman of Enugu State Council of Traditional Rulers, Chuku Asadu, the Igwe of Eden Ani Community, Nsukka Local Government Area, while the Ebonyi State Command rounded off the week with a sensitization lecture to women leaders during their August meeting in Abakaliki. That's the update for this week. My name is Comfort, and I hand you over to our host, Mr. Femi Babafemi.
All right, thank you very much there, Netta and Comfort. Welcome back from the news highlights segment. Now let's remind ourselves that when you are invited to be on the speaker's table, please remain muted so that our guest speaker can have a seamless presentation. And when you are invited to unmute yourself, please, that's the time you should come on, not before you are invited. I will definitely, after the presentation by our guest speaker, we'll be inviting you one after the other to unmute yourself so that you can ask your question, make your contribution, or your interrogation, whatever the case may be. Please let's be guided by these rules. Please also note that here we don't discuss politics, strictly on the issue of substance abuse and illicit drug trafficking and how we can mitigate the effect of all of this on individuals, families, our society, and indeed our environment. So please let's remain focused on subject of discussion or the operations of the agency. We'll definitely take your questions on any aspect of our operations as long as they are in line with what we do. Would like to appreciate you for your cooperation every week here on this platform. Before I invite our guests, let me also remind us about the service available at the NDLA call center, where we have an area of experts, that is counselors, psychologists, that is clinical psychologists, psychotherapists, and psychiatric doctors. All of these experts are available at the call center, where you can sit in the comfort of your homes and enjoy the services you would walk into a treatment center to get. Definitely, all you need to do is to call our toll-free helpline, which is 0800 1020 3040. The toll-free helpline again is 0800 10 20 30 40. Just dial the number from any part of this country, from the comfort of your home, and you have our experts talk to you to address your issues. If they need to get you checked in into a treatment facility, they will definitely direct you to the nearest one to your location. That's as far as that is concerned. Again, I would also like to remind us about Save Our Families social advocacy initiative, which is targeted at mobilizing support and for drug testing. We indeed would like to encourage everyone, wherever we may be, as families, as institutions, workplaces, schools, to get test kits, that's drug test kits. The agency has in all our commands across the country, specially produced for this purpose, that can detect up to 15 illicit substances. All of this is to enhance or facilitate early detection of those who are on substance, or even serve some deterrent effect. Indeed, when you have this at home and your kids know that you have something to test them right in your home, just the way you test for diabetes or sugar level or blood pressure. These kits are also available for you to use at home, in offices, and in schools, just to get help for those who might have started abusing or even experimenting illicit substances before the situation gets to the point of dependence or addiction. All of this, the agency is pushing just to ensure that we'll get support to as many that need support. Now let me formally introduce our guest speaker today. She is Dr. Juliet Pwajok, a clinical psychologist and lecturer at the University of Jos, Plateau State. I love the weather of Plateau. Now, she's equally a drug prevention expert with the United Nations Office on Drug and Crime, UNODC. She's equally a consultant to the UNDP and also an adolescent life skills instructor. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Juliet Pwajok as I invite her to unmute herself while we listen to her. Spend the next 30 minutes thereabout to discuss our topic for today, that is understanding childhood adversities, mental health outcomes, and substance abuse. Please go ahead with your presentation, Dr. Juliet. Thank you.
Thank you, Femi, for the opportunity to speak. It's my delight to be here.
Yeah, Dr. Juliet, I'm
So
not sure we're hearing you. Or is anybody hearing her? You are muted. Please unmute yourself.
okay,
Okay.
my mic is on now. Can you hear me
That's
now?
Dr. Juliet. Dr. Juliet, unmute yourself. You are still muted. Usman, please mute yourself so that I don't remove you from the speaker's corner.
I am not muted now.
Okay,
My
please go
mic
ahead,
is
Dr.
on.
Juliet.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. He said you
All
should
right.
go ahead. We can hear
All
you.
right. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. So, good evening, everyone. Um, it's my delight to speak on this all important topic, childhood adversities and mental health, looking at it with regards to substance use. And by way of starting, I'd like to throw more light. When we talk about childhood adversities, what are we really talking about? Childhood adversities would mean different challenges, difficulties, and painful exposures or experiences that children are likely to go through, um, especially within the home, within the communities, at schools, and generally. So, childhood adversities come in different dimensions, and this would stem from, physical abuse. Sometimes it's about battery in the home. We punish children in a way that is very, very disregarding. You kick them, you slap them, we hit them to the wall. Sometimes we jack them by the dress and push them to the floor so that they even sustain injuries due to these physical engagements with this population. And looking at abuse also, we can look at it from the emotional perspective of children. Sometimes we abuse our own children without even knowing that we're abusing them emotionally. Abuse is not just when we hit them and throw them so that they sustain injuries. It also has to do with what they're thinking about. For instance, when we humiliate children, criticize them to some extent, we shout at them or we call them names. A lot of homes are guilty of that. You call a child, you're a fool, you're an idiot, you criticize them. Look, you cannot amount to anything good. You're just a useless child. And to other extents, making them subject of jokes, using sarcasm on the child, and another dimension would mean making the child perform degrading tasks. Sometimes we punish children. We think we don't want to beat them, we don't want to be harsh on them, and yet we make them to do things that are not supposed to be done because we feel that, well, this is a way to help make the child not to repeat, the mistakes or they're engaging with. And to neglect in the home can also be an adverse reaction or experience by a child. For instance, when you don't give attention to your children, when you don't care enough, we're not present. Sometimes the child is at home and is willing to have the parent just sit down and listen to them, just wants to share something with the parent, and the opportunity is not available. Children are left to house helps and wards who don't care, who don't want to even understand what these children are thinking or what they're going through. That's a form of abuse that can really, really make a child to feel, like they are being, you know, traumatized or, undergoing some form of punishment or neglect that amounts to difficulties and painful experiences for them. And sometimes children experience violence within the home front where there's domestic violence, some level of by the father, there's and them these are some of a child where the body language is, and that means you can't talk, you can't feel, you can't trust. These children are exposed to very, very pointers to the fact that you are a child, you have nothing to contribute, you have no value, there's no addition from you, we have no discussion with you, what we say stands, and when I give an instruction as a father, as a mother, it is hard or fast.
I guess we're having some connection issues with Dr. Juliet. Her network is fluctuating. Dr. Juliet, please go ahead. Your network is fluctuates. You break, but please go ahead. Yeah, I guess. Okay, let Dr. Juliet can exit and come back so that let's see. Otherwise, I'll ask Francis to connect with her using the other platform so that we can um, get on that. But then before she gets back with her to continue her presentation, let me quickly acknowledge some of our compatriots already on the space. Thank you, Fodio Ahmed, who is joining us on the handle of Arewa Poet. Thank you, Akintobi Habiba. And another great compatriot on this platform is Dr. Abdullah. Dr. Abdullah is of the Ahmadu Bello University Teaching Hospital, Zaria. He joins us on Excel Mental Health Foundation handle. Thank you, Professor Rosemary Ogu. Thank you very much, Madam, for finding the time to join us. We also like to appreciate Professor Joseph Kinani. Thank you, Professor Kinani, for also finding time to join the conversation today. Blessing Hanacho, Chin, Dunk, my colleague in Lagos, Rita Okwere. Thank you, Rita. Clinton Obaji, Funsho Jimo, Honorable Omoton Sorry. I think I get that right. Thank you very much, Honorable Omoton Sorry. Felix Ogwezi, Bashir Ibrahim, my colleague here at the headquarters. Real, that's as MC John Oyinda. Thank you, MC John Oyinda. We also have Mohammed Bafo. Mohammed Bafo. We also have another of my colleague on this side. That's Dr. Jonah Kolo. It's quite a long time I saw Auntie Kemi. I'm seeing Auntie Kemi here. Auntie Kemi, that's I follow you, Adebola. Thank you, Auntie Kemi, for finding time to be part of the conversation today. We'll have Pascal Igwebu. Thank you, Pascal, for being part of the conversation today. I have Ibitoye joining us from Ilorin, Kwara State. Who else is there? Juni, I think that should be. Then Dreamer, Ponju, thank you for finding time to be part of the conversation today. Let me go through. Abu, thank you. I also have Jonah Beatrice. Thank you, Jonah Beatrice, for being part of the conversation today. Camille Oyedele, thank you, Camille Oyedele, for being part of the conversation today. Would also have Fine Boy. What is this? Fin Boy or Fine Boy? Thank you, Fin Boy. Thank you, Mayowa. Thank you, Ekele. Thank you, Zainab. Thank you, Umar. Thank you, Ola. We have quite a number of people to appreciate there. Um, okay, quickly, let's, if Dr. Juliet is having a problem with her connection, can Francis connect with her direct so that we can get that? Okay, let me get that on now. All right. I guess you should be online in a second now. Um, yeah, okay, Francis, please go ahead with that.
Okay, Dr. Julia, you can.
Dr. Juliet, please go ahead now.
All right. All right. Sorry. I'm not very sure of the point where you lost me, but let me just continue. Talking about childhood experiences, I just mentioned quite a number of homes that are likely to expose an individual or a child to adverse effects or reactions when they are, by the home, the family, or the parents. And I just mentioned that dysfunctional families are a situation where the child does not feel free to speak. It doesn't feel free to even distrust. You're just let alone to just do what you don't want to do. These children, we assume they're not present. Sometimes there's an assumption that they don't have a voice. There's nothing for them to contribute. They don't even understand what it is for them what it means for them to be members of the family. So these children, in the long run, just keep their emotions and make meaning of whatever the parents present before them. So looking at that, I also explained the fact that violence in the home or in the community has to do with not even giving children attention or paying attention to them. These are situations that we take for granted. A child is present and is speaking and is pouring out their hearts, and yet nobody wants to understand from their own point of view. Children make sense and meaning of these situations, and in the long run, they cause a lot of pain that they mentalize and are unable to speak, especially in homes where they're not allowed to express themselves. This leads to different reactions. There's the stress response. And for the stress response, what are we talking about? The stress response means very, very restless, especially within the home front. They feel very highly agitated, and yet there's nothing they can do about it. It's a helpless situation for the child. And these children, of course, don't have options when it comes to emotional regulation. And regulating their emotions here would mean they don't know how to deal with anxiety. They don't know how to deal with anger. They don't know how to even talk to a significant other person in their lives. They don't understand what it takes to interact with a friend in a positive way that will make meaning and make sense to them. And this also can affect what? Their self-esteem. These children find it difficult to trust others, and they feel bad about themselves in the long run. They feel they're inadequate. They feel they don't have what it takes to stand up to their peers. They feel they amount to nothing because of the experiences that they engage with within the family, within schools, and all. And sometimes it's even sexual violence. These days we have the phones, we have social media, where there is cyberbullying. People bully each other, right? Especially now that children are using phones and laptops at very tender ages. They begin to receive these signals from when they're interfacing and engaging with people that are very, very, imaginary, and they internalize these pains, which eventually are likely to amount to some, level of mental disorders or difficult emotions or painful emotions. And when adverse experiences in childhood grow to a very, very dangerous level, it can lead to mental health disorders. And these disorders, stem from depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, and all. And we know the implications of these disorders. Sometimes they even go into hiding some more, and especially with the stigma surrounding mental health. When these disorders come up, nobody even realizes that this is what is happening to this person. Are there changes on this child? Is this child behaving differently than they were behaving some months back or some years back? Are they sleeping too much? Are they losing interest in formerly pleasurable activities? Are they not sleeping at night? Do they have very, very painful lived experiences of certain things that have gone through their lives? And of course, dealing with these issues and these adolescents not having the capacity to cope with these issues, they're likely to have the first opportunity, which is the use of drugs. And drugs will be alcohol and other drugs, addiction, which can lead to addiction and substance abuse. I'm sure to a large extent we understand what addiction is and what abuse is when it comes to substance use, especially for the fact that their brains are not yet developed. They're still children and all, or even adolescents. They're likely to creep into addiction faster and with a sustenance than adults. So the essence is to, at this point, understand that adverse childhood reactions will lead to mental health disorders in some populations of adolescents or children. It will also lead to substance use disorders or such as addiction and abuse, and sometimes a combination of both, which is known as co-occurring disorders. You have substance use and mental health disorders at the same time. And it's also important to understand that there are ways to prevent this among children. There are ways that these menace can be handled or tackled. And those areas would be one, early identification. I heard the host explain earlier about you know NDLEA's focus being prevention, helping people to see parents at home to identify early and all. Yes, research has shown that when these issues or challenges are nipped on board right from when these you know potential population or children are at risk, when it is identified early enough, it helps, because there is no way a child that is using drugs and is hiding and nobody knows and continues to use, that does not develop some level of disorders, substance use disorders, and sometimes even mental health disorders. So early identification, and those will stem around identifying paraphernalia that these children use within the home. For instance, you see a paper that has been twisted under the child's pillow. You see matchsticks or match boxes always in their bags, or lighters, or you see pills that you don't even recognize, or you see bottles of cough syrup or of codeine, or you see sachets of drugs of different magnitudes that you didn't purchase, and then you see the child sometimes just hanging around. For a lot of parents, I'm just trying to say this, that most parents would focus on looking at the child's eyes. How does the child behave? What is happening to the child? It just depends on the substance that the child is using. Some of these substances have no relationship with the way the eyes would look initially. And some of these substances, the child will be composed, very, very organized in a way that the parents are likely not to pick on time what is happening with these children. So if as parents or guardians or wards, you have a close relationship with these children, the most important thing to do all the time is talk with them, get close, check their things from time to time, not in an intrusive manner, but by way of helping them to organize their rooms, by way of helping them to look through their bags to see what books they're carrying, what is it, are they doing their assignments, are they doing the chores within the house that you ask them to do? Do they have plates or cups under their beds or under their chairs? You will see some families, where parents, mommy and daddy have spent 3 months to 6 months, they've not gone into their child's room. They don't even know if the child makes up after himself. They don't check to even, give some level of, demand some level of accountability from these children. All they do is it's time for lunch, it's time to go to church, then they fast, then they pray. If it's the mosque, they go to the mosque, they read the Bible, they talk, and yet a significant aspect of the children's lives is being neglected. These children sometimes want attention. They want to be heard. They want to negotiate. They want to be, you need to facilitate, understand by way of feedback what your children are thinking. And that will not just come from, hey, Junior, come here, sit down here, or tell me, what did you do today? That's threatening. That sounds more like a warning. It's more like, Junior, can you escort me? I'm going to the park. Get some ice cream, or get into a restaurant, or just call the child, can you escort me to take a walk? Look at the trees, look at the mountains, talk about other things. And then before you know it, this child is feeling very, very relaxed and comfortable to express himself or herself to you. The things that you will hear from this child will surprise you. Now, who is your best friend? You laugh over it. And this child is saying, Jonathan is my best friend. This is what Jonathan does. I like him because of this and that. As a parent, if you're sensitive, you begin to pick some things. And they begin to share their distress. They share their pains. They share their desires. And to a large extent, you will even identify their weaknesses and strengths in terms of relating with their friends, interacting with their classmates, and also the way they interact with siblings. These are all important pointers to allowing these adolescents or children to talk to you in a manner that they will always seek help from you and not someone else. And it's important to promote resilience in these adolescents. Promoting resilience would mean equipping these adolescents with drug use. What are we talking about when it comes to children? Why do children engage with drugs? Why is it easier for them to be lured into drug use? Why will the child not want to look at the lifestyle of the father who is a pastor and say, I want to be like my father? Why will the child not look at Femi or look at Babatunde or look at Zubeiru or look at Japhet and say, this is my mentor? What is lacking in these children that continues to attract and dissuade them from looking at the lives of their parents or their wards or their guardians? What is that thing that they lack? And I want to take us to the fact that drug use is not just centered around the fact that there are drugs. It's not just centered around the fact that drugs are sweet and they provide initial pleasures to the users. Adolescents' brains are still developing. Adolescents are very flexible and they're evolving and they're dynamic. Their ways are not yet set. They're still living in very, very great ambivalence. What should I do? What if I try this? What if I go about this? What if they laugh at me? What if I say this and nobody takes notes? They're still making decisions and making choices in their lives that are likely to make them confused or as a result of the confusion that they find themselves in. These are the reasons. And that is why drug prevention programs tackle these skills that adolescents don't have that expose them to early use of drugs. For instance, adolescents who don't have critical thinking skills are likely to engage in drug use because they're unable to analyze situations objectively. They're unable to look at situations and to the values I have. This is my attitude towards this behavior. Therefore, let me think to make an objective assessment. Once they're likely to be lured into drug use or be of this drug use. And when children are exposed to adverse childhood experiences, they're not allowed to speak. They're not allowed their use within the home. Don't forget that I started by saying they also have low self-esteem and most times lacks the capacity to deal constructively with decisions about the and likely not to engage in a way to find a solution for the situation and look for the choices that are best for them. And problem solving skills are very, very significant to solve unresolved problems, to identify, their weaknesses and their strengths, which are likely as a result of the mental stress they go through when they go through adverse effects. So decision making is part of those issues or part of the skills that adolescents are who are exposed to adverse childhood experiences are likely not to have. What about critical thinking? For a child to be adaptable and flexible in situations of daily life, for instance, sometimes as parents, we make the children believe that life presents only rosiness. We escort them everywhere. We provide everything. When they complain, we make sure they don't complain, as if it replaces our absence. Junior says, Daddy, I need 50,000 for this. And because you're feeling guilty, your work takes your time most of the time. What you do is take the money and in your mind, I'm providing everything. There's nothing he asks me that I don't provide. Meanwhile, you are depriving this child of the capacity to think creatively through their own difficulties and to provide solutions for themselves, because in real life you have to meet situations that will overwhelm you sometimes as humans. Sometimes we meet situations that will make us and push us to the wall in such a manner that we need to think. But when adolescents or children are not allowed to develop the skills that have to do with thinking, I want to ask us, which adverse experiences of childhood will even allow a child to think? First, they're feeling their life. The first thing they do, of course, is to just go around thinking through other people's minds. And that is why when they meet their peers and they lack critical thinking or how to be creative, what happens? Creativity boosts ego, it adds to the confidence level, and it makes them feel capable. Childbearing practices that are very, very demeaning and dysfunctional, especially with domestic violence and so on in the homes, are likely to deprive adolescents of creativity. And to a large extent, I want to say adolescents or children who go through adverse experiences lack effective communication skills. And that is why their peers easily come and say, come, let's go. And they lack assertiveness. They can't stand up to their peers. They can't express themselves to say, I am reading right now and I can't go with you. With low self-esteem, they're likely to feel, I'm not matching up. I need to be like my friends. With with distress and painful experiences, they're likely to feel, who am I aside my friends? And peer pressure comes in very, very handy. So these adolescents need to have self-awareness, a sense of self-awareness. They need to know who they are. They need to develop character. They need to build on the fact that they can empathize. They can think through other people's minds and then be assertive to say, I don't want this. It is only built in environments that are friendly, in environments that will provide good nurturing, and in environments where they feel heard, they feel understood, they feel loved, they feel tended for. There's a difference between loving the child and being over-involved with the child's life. Loving the child and being present is different from controlling. It's different from manipulating. It's different from overbearing being overbearing on the child. Because you need to create a balance. Know when to allow this child to decide. Know when to show the child that I trust you, Junior. I can count on you. I know you can do this. Know when to step in to say, no, we're not doing it this way. How about this way? And sometimes we even punish children without them knowing why we're punishing them. We yell incessantly. We pour out words that are abusive as if they're not human beings. Children want us to negotiate with them. They want us to engage them. They want meaningful interactions, and they have senses. They have the understanding to make meaning of what they hear and see. So let's not wish them away as if they're not they don't understand. What do you know? Who are you? I gave birth to you. Get out. No. The times have even changed. With technology, they're reading ahead. They understand these things. So let's treat them with dignity. And let's look out for the cues for depression, for anxiety and all. If your child does not behave in the way that they're not used to behaving, just like I earlier explained, if they're oversleeping than usual, check it. If they're refusing to eat or overeating, check it. If they're not finding pleasure in the activities they used to find pleasure with, check it. If they're continuously sad and withdrawn for a period longer than 2 weeks, check it. Are they restless? So you look out for all those. And then, if possible, go into meaningful interaction. Meanwhile, you would have developed friendship. So that you pick out if there are mental health disorders. For drugs, let's be friends with these children. Let's make sure that we form the basis for which they grow to become responsible and accountable adults. So drug use does not just come from the trees. It comes through what the children make sense of. Sometimes they model us parents. Sometimes they think through what is acceptable and what is not acceptable within the homes. Sometimes it's what they read. Sometimes it's the social media. Sometimes it's even school. Sometimes it's Bible study. Sometimes it's even youth activities in the church. Or their friends that they make, the new friends they make from the mosque. You know, because we are spiritual in this country, we're likely to, you know, misjudge what being accountable and what being responsible. To an extent. Junior cleaned the house, he cleans very fast, and before you come back, he has gone out and he's back. And when you come back, you see him on the dining reading the Bible. And to you, this is good enough. Parental involvement and good parenting practices are beyond that. So I beg to stop here. Let me not talk too much, even though I feel I have. So thank you. I will be questions will be welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear Dr. Juliet, for that brilliant and inciting presentation. That I can tell you, I actually didn't even know that you had exceeded your time because I was enjoying your presentation, and indeed, I can say that's probably the same way quite a lot of our compatriots will feel on this platform today. Thank you once again. Dr. Juliet Kwajok is a clinical psychologist and a lecturer at the University of Jos, Plateau State. She's equally a drug prevention expert with the UNODC, consultant to UNDP, and an adolescent life skills instructor. Once again, we'd like to appreciate that awesome, beautiful, and brilliant presentation by Dr. Juliet Kwajok. We have quite a lot of people across the world on this space. Okay, before I get to, I have quite a number of questions. Beam in our DM. I'd like to take, who is that? Okay, Francis, you may have to move first. Yeah, great. But before I get to our DM, once again, let me quickly acknowledge some of our compatriots on the space. I may not be able, it's not possible to acknowledge everybody, but just bear with us, especially our compatriots joining us on Facebook and YouTube. We acknowledge you all together. Please take that as our appreciation of your time and the time you have to spend with us on this conversation today. But for those on X, that's Twitter, that's X. Let me once again acknowledge Fodio Ahmed, who joins us on Arewa and the handle of Arewa Poet. Akintobi Habiba, Dr. Abdullah. Dr. Abdullah is a consultant psychiatrist at the Ahmadu Bello University Teaching Hospital, a senior member of this platform for that matter. I also appreciate Professor Rosemary Ogo. Professor Rosemary has been our guest on this platform before, and she's been a regular on this platform. The same thing is Professor Joseph Kinani. Both of them actually joins us from Port Harcourt, Rivers State. Thank you very much. Blessing Hannah Chochin, Dong Rita Okpere, Clinton Obaji Funsho Jimo, Honorable Omoto Sori, Felix Ogwezi, Bashir Ibrahim, I am real, that as MC John Oyida, Mohammed Bafo, Dr. Jonah Kolo, Auntie Kemi, Toby, AGN, that's Abdul Ganiyu, Pharmacist Agboma also joins us from Port Harcourt, Rivers State. We also have Dejavu Kangian Kwajok. I guess that must be a member of the family of our guest speaker today because of the similarity. But maybe I just a coincidence, but then I think it's more than a coincidence in this case. Thank you very much, John Ogunjimi. Thank you, Toby. Thank you, V. Gada. That's Vanguard against uh, Vanguard against drug abuse. We also have Mohammed Waziri, Dr. Edine Uzoram. We also have Sogang Amkeni. Sorry if I didn't pronounce your name properly or very well. Apologies for that. We'll continue to learn and improve on that. Okay, that said, let's quickly get to DM to take some questions there. For those who may want to make contributions or ask questions based on the presentation by Dr. Juliet, you can then request for the mic. But before I come to you now, let me quickly get some of these questions from our DM. I'll be taking them maybe in two so that Dr. Juliet can respond to them. I appreciate if Dr. Juliet has a pen and a paper so that she can note so that she won't have to lose any of them. The first one is coming from Edigba. Edigba is asking, what are the most effective therapeutic approaches for adults who have experienced significant childhood adversities and are dealing with mental health and substance abuse issues? Okay, that's actually her second question, but her first question, okay, she says, I want to express my sincere appreciation to that explicit lecture by Dr. Juliet. But please, can I ask the following questions? Yes, I've read the number two. The number one here, how does early exposure to trauma affect brain development in children, and what are the long-term mental health implications of that? That's the two questions from the first. He commended Dr. Juliet for the explicit presentation, and then asked the two questions, which I asked in reverse order, but then Dr. Juliet can respond to them in any order she likes. Please go ahead, Dr. Juliet. Thank you.
I heard only one of the questions about childhood traumatic experiences and
okay, can I read them again? Let me go through them again.
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
the first one is, how does early exposure to trauma affect brain development in children, and what are the long-term mental health implications? That's the first question. The second question is, what are the most effective therapeutic approaches for adults who have experienced significant childhood adversities and are dealing with mental health and substance abuse issues? That's the two.
Well, the first question about childhood traumatic experiences and how it affects child brain development. Exposure to trauma would mean experiencing very, very painful situations or events or circumstances that expose the child to pain, which is very, very deep pain. And it is an experience that is likely to create so much anxiety. It is an experience that is likely to create a situation where there are nightmares. It is a situation where a child may find themselves being heavily on the alert. They're very, very alert, looking forward to, they're startled by very, very, sometimes insignificant occurrences because of the connection of the traumatic experiences to that thing which is happening. Sometimes they have vivid or lived experiences that come back afresh. They come back as if they're re-experiencing the traumatic event again. And that's to talk about, let me give an instance of people who are in violent torn zones. You can imagine a child that's gone through, for instance, rape, let me use rape for the girl child. Rape in the sense that repeated rape for this child has brought about a traumatic experience of being scared about seeing anything that has to be with a man. When they sleep at night, they're startled from their sleep. They become so restless because they imagine and live out that experience every now and then, that it begins to affect their sleep. It begins to affect their function, their daily function. It makes them to go into disharmony with themselves because these experiences have changed the way they perceive life. Yeah. And if these are dysfunctionalities that this child experiences every now and then, lead to be stress amounting from such experiences. There's likely to be anxiety emanating from that traumatic experience. And if care is not taken, this child becomes absent even in class. They become absent from the daily engagements that they have with their peers. They live through pain and serious fear. And because these experiences are exposing them to these very, very difficult and painful situations, they're likely not to function as their peers. They're likely to read their books, make sense of themselves, have self-awareness, engage in the skills that I just mentioned. They are likely not to learn to be creative at the age that they're growing like their peers. They're likely to have very difficult ways of relating with their peers. They're likely to also have poor problem-solving skills. And what is a child if they lack all these skills in society? If they can be sent into, can lead to serious mental health disorders, severe depression, PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder, can amount from the traumatic experiences. And this creates a sense of dysfunctionality where the child begins to look for medication in substance use and other drugs. They look for ways to medicate, to ameliorate the symptoms. They don't want to think through the realities of those traumatic experiences. So what do? They look for the nearest and the most close reward system they can get to help themselves to forget about their pains. And they go into drug use. They go into, all sorts of maladaptive behaviors to be able to cope. Antisocial behaviors are also known to emanate as a result of traumatic experiences. So this child, because they're not developed in their brains, they're likely not to utilize the capacities which they're still developing to deal with and cope with the adversities of life. Thank you.
All right, thank you there once again, Dr. Juliet. Were you able to capture the second question, that is on the effective way of effective therapeutic approaches for adults who have experienced significant childhood adversities and are dealing with mental health and substance abuse issues?
Okay. Sorry, I missed that, and I've gotten it now. Therapeutic interventions would depend on what the person has gone through. It would depend on what caused the problem. It will also depend on the age of the child. For instance, an adult, sorry, we're talking about adults now. An adult who has dysfunctional experiences from the home, who was exposed to domestic violence, and who had problems with parenting and the way they related with their parents. The first option may be to take them through psychoanalysis, which would mean taking them back to their first 5 years, discussing how they grew up, what were the issues that brought pain, What were the experiences? At what point in time did you start to feel this way? Whether it's low self-esteem, whether it's that they're feeling anxious or they're depressed or they were traumatized. At what point did this start to happen? Who was available for you? What coping strategies were you able to engage or imbibe? And another one could be, you know, cognitive behavioral therapy. Is it about the way the adult is making sense of their world now? Is it about a particular behavioral pattern that they have to deal with and change, that is making them to go back to this use? What is it in their minds? What do they process? What is the issue that is pushing them to using constantly these drugs? What brought about the addiction or the drug abuse problem? So, cognitive behavioral therapies will engage restructuring the mind or helping the person or the addict to understand the other options that they're likely to change their thought patterns that will help them to deal effectively with the addiction, or provide avenues for them to look at behaviors. For instance, how many times do you smoke? How many times do you drink? Can you cut down? Is it about your friends? Is it about the joints that you go to the beer parlors? Is it about that your parents make you angry each time and you go back to use? Is it about your girlfriend? Is it about your place of work? Is your boss a problem to you? Can you not express yourself? Do you have any problem-solving skills available? It could even be group therapy. You know, it could just be that, look, they need psychoeducation. They need to understand what drugs are mentally, what they do to them, a lot of people using don't even understand what drugs are. Which drug is likely to be a stimulant? Which one is a depressant? Which one is likely to be a hallucinogen? They just use these drugs, and while they use them, they combine them anyhow, and they become addicted in a way that withdrawal becomes even more difficult. And therefore, therapy will depend on why the person is using, which substances the person is using, what brought about the substance use, and the strengths they have to harness to be able to overcome this drug use.
Awesome. Dr. Juliet, you have indeed displayed brilliantly the capacity and capability of a clinical psychologist and a lecturer at that. You deserve a medal. Thank you very much. You've been on point in every bit of your presentation and even responses here this evening. Let me quickly go back to our DM to take more questions for you. You still have quite a time with us on this space. Okay, this is Victor Mann. Victor Mann, okay, is bringing in caution now. I have enjoyed every bit of our guest speaker's presentation this evening. Thank you very much, madam. My question is, how do cultural differences affect the understanding and impact of childhood adversities on mental health and substance abuse? I ask this because there are a lot of homes where parents come from different backgrounds and with different cultures, and yet have to raise children together. Thank you. All right, Dr. Juliet, did you get that?
Yes, I did.
Okay, please go ahead.
Yeah, and so talking about cultural differences, you know, there are cultural beliefs about child rearing, and of course, they would be different from one community to the other, from one country to the other, and yet people are, meant to behave well and all. But in all the cultures, one thing is constant, that there's unfair treatment in all the cultures. There is the fact that children have brains in all the cultures. Children can perceive, they can make sense, and they can make meaning out of conversations. Children want to be heard in almost all the cultures. And I want to say this, that cultural beliefs stem from even our religious practices, to our norms, to our values, and even to the food we eat. I understand that there are cultures that the use of cigarettes is permissible. There are religions that, of course, we've gone around the country. There are states in the country where children and parents sit at dinner and, smoke together. Parents, like the girl child, boy child, parents sit together and smoke together while they eat dinner. Those are all there. However, it's important to note that while children are children, within the culture, they make sense of what is right and what is wrong. Whether it's in the religious perspective or within the homes. There are cultures that the child is not supposed to raise a question. And yet, the child wants to be heard. If they're able to cope and provide the kind of respect that they shouldn't ask any questions, that does not mean that in their heads there are no questions. The questions will be asked and channeled to their peers. The questions will be channeled or directed to their classmates. Those questions will be asked on the social media. In the home, they're not talking because that is the culture. But that does not remove the fact that the human being wants to learn and know and make sense of their world. So it's important, regardless of our cultures, regardless of the inclinations we have, there is a uniformity to drug use. It harms the child. There's a uniformity to mental ill health. It harms the child and the person. Within your culture, what is acceptable? Do you relate with your children? Can you say, Daddy, why are we not cooking 3 square meals again like before? Can you sit with the child and say, sit down all of you with your children? We're unable to feed on 3 square meals because the economy is now hard. Daddy and mommy used to earn this, and the prices in the market were lower. Now we have to deal with rising prices, and we can't cope to pay your school fees. We can't be able to sustain the medical bills. We're unable to provide the regular meals we used to provide. Can you sit down and discuss that with your children? Otherwise, they think you're wicked. They think you don't want to make them feel good. And sometimes they become very, very stubborn and recalcitrant to your own upbringing because they're feeling that you're not a good parent. They don't understand until you tell them. They don't make sense of it until you relate. That's one example. And so, regardless of the culture, it's important. One thing stands out. Skills need to be developed. And skills are only developed and built and inculcated within healthy environments. Skills are equipped when the child feels free and relaxed. When they're able to speak in a way that suggests that they have a voice. So our cultures may be different. They're beautiful sometimes. Sometimes there are cultural practices that are harmful. We need to be able to understand which ones are beneficial, especially considering the times. 2010, 2002, 1992 are all situations that have changed. What is happening today did not happen 20 years ago. We can't stick to what happened 20, 30 years ago because it's part of our culture. Meanwhile, the world has moved. Why are your children in school? They're in school because they're learning new things, learning the trends, while interacting with their classmates and the environment. And if you don't tag along in a way that it shows that you are understanding the changing times, you'll be left behind. And these children will seek for recourse outside of you. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much once again, Dr. Juliet. Indeed, you have quite a lot to offer in there, and you've done excellently with that. I can attest to. Okay, and that's also in the comment of Damilola. Damilola is saying any parent that is not on this platform today must have missed quite a lot. But the good thing is the NDLA keeps this recording on its platforms so we can share for the benefits of millions of people across the world. Thank you, Dr. Juliet, for this great presentation and breaking issues down. Now, my question is, I know you have broken down a number of childhood adversities, but are there specific types of childhood adversities that are more strongly associated with certain mental health disorders, such as depression, anxiety, or PTSD? Did you get that, Dr. Juliet?
I did.
Okay.
Thank you.
Please go ahead.
Yes. Talking about childhood adversities, I want us to understand something, that every child is different. There are individual differences, and that means there are differences in the way these children would perceive. There are differences in the way they make meaning of their world in their minds. There are genetic predispositions to depression and other mental ill health situations. There are social issues that are likely to make a child to go into mental health disorders. And there are situations that just have to do with the way they think and perceive everything around them. Can they cope with the stresses of life? And that's why in school, you can have 50 students in a class during exams. They're about to write exams, and 1, 2, or 3 of them break down. Why not all of them? It's because of the differences. Stress coping mechanisms are not uniform. There are people that can cope with particular stress levels, and there are people or children who are likely not to cope amicably with the same situation. So a child, for instance, in the home who undergoes rape may be traumatized to the point that it lives with them until it becomes a mental health disorder. Another child has undergone rape, and just through simple counseling techniques, that child just comes out of it and begins to face life and even share with others how they have been raped and how they have come out of it and how they have grown out of it. There are people who will go through substance use even at early stage and may never be depressed. If you go to IDP camps today, there are children who are in IDP camps and are still topping their classes in school. There are children who are in homes having everything and yet they can break down. So adverse childhood experiences will depend on the child, one, on the level of exposure to the distress causing situation, two, and on the way the child perceives and makes sense of the situation surrounding him. And to a large extent, whether there is family support or social support in the course of these exposures, these are also contributing factors that make a child to cope or not to cope, to break down into depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorders or not. So it will depend on the child, it will depend on the situation, and it will depend on the perspective. So even though adverse situations that are chronic in the sense that they're debilitating, they continue to, to thrive over a longer period of time, this is likely to break down a child into mental health disorders than the ones that probably are acute or just come and go. Research has proven that. And so it's important to know that it's not a particular way that you treat a child that predisposes them to mental health disorders, but it depends on, you can have, as a father, you can have 5 children. You're training them to church, you're doing everything, and yet one of them is perceiving a particular thing that you did to him. Probably you flogged the others and you flogged him, but the way they make sense of his, or he makes sense of his own flogging, is different from the others. The others may feel, really, we were wrong. Daddy is right for beating me. Daddy did this and probably I deserve it. Another child out of your 5 children may come out to say, see, Daddy has done this wicked thing to me. I'm not going to forgive this. And I'm going to get back to him. I'm going to get back at him. The only way is to do the things that he said I should not do. And he becomes deviant, refuting your training and upbringing. So children think differently just like adults. There are variabilities in the way they assess, in the way they perceive, but basically it's important to provide nurturing and very, very comfortable parenting styles that these children will identify with, will open up to us, will relate in a way that is positive, so that even when they're angry, they have room to speak. Even when they feel they're disenchanted, they can say, Mommy, I'm angry that you said this to me. And Mommy will not kill them. African mothers are said to not to even tolerate that. And the child says, I'm sad that you slapped me in the morning. Mommy, actually, you shouldn't have slapped me because this is what happened. The child is beginning to say that the next thing is the pistol, or is it you carry the steering stick and you hit the child and the child runs away, and next time you do it, they keep it. But emotions are bottling up, painful emotions, and they're beginning to speak to their minds to the fact that I can't speak, I'm going to share with my friends. And if they go to share with their friends, what do they tell them? In my own family, my mother dares not speak to me like that. In my own family, my father cannot question why I'm awake to watch movies till 10 p.m. In my own family, nobody dares address me this way. I will just give it to them. And because you have not given room for the child to express their grievances to you, this is the feedback they're getting from their peers. So, childhood mental disorders, or disorders that may come up later in life, mental disorders that may come up later in life as a result of adverse childhood experiences, would vary. And the key point is provide an enabling environment for self-expression, for self-awareness, for the child to be assertive, for the child to be able to practice what to do in the wider world right from the home. You expect your child not to turn out and to turn up for bullies. How will they turn up if you don't give them the voice from home? You expect your child to be able to stand out and make you proud out there. How will they do it if they can't feel free and be adaptable within the home environment and be flexible with the way they communicate and be creative in the way they relate with their parents? You're not equipping them with these skills. They can't just get them in the marketplace. Out there, because they lack the skills, anything and anyone who tells them anything, they pick it and they use it. Thank you.
All right, we should actually say thank you, Dr. Juliet Wajok there. You've done, I've seen our compatriots in the US are coming for you, but quickly before I invite Dr. Loretta, who joins us from Chicago, Illinois, let me quickly read another a message from another of our compatriots from the US. That's Obia Julu joins us from Indianapolis in the state of Indiana. This is one of my best conversation on this space. Dr. Juliet nailed this topic very, very well, and I'm impressed. There are lots of brilliant minds like her in Nigeria. She reignites my hope that Nigeria will be great. Absolutely. Now, my question to Dr. Juliet is this: can resilience and coping strategies learned in childhood help offset the negative impacts of adversities on mental health? Her question again,
Okay, I found this on the web for Ignite Smalem Van Nigeria. Will be great, absolutely now.
Sorry, that's Siri doing his thing around me here. Okay, her question again is, can resilience and coping strategies learned in childhood help offset the negative impact of adversities on mental health? Please note this question, Dr. Juliet, while I quickly bring in Dr. Loretta. Dr. Loretta is a community psychologist who joins us from Chicago, Illinois.
Yeah, good evening, everyone, and good evening, Dr. Juliet. I really apologize for joining a bit late, but I wanted to say that from what I heard when I joined, I think, and also join my voice to others that have appreciated the detailed information you have shared today. So I want to say well done. And you have touched a very key and significant aspect of the work towards discouraging or managing substance use issues, especially as it relates to managing, understanding, identifying, and also acknowledging that people have childhood adversities that are very likely, or most likely to affect their mental health, even though I don't like to use the word mental health, as a lot of people know. I like to use the word psychological stress or emotional stress and substance use. It's interesting because just yesterday, my friend and I, who lives in the UK, were just going through our childhood drama. We were just yesterday by this time, we were just talking about everything we went through, the difficult times where we almost, probably did some things, but our parents, even though some of them were not there, but we still pushed, we still were resilient. I'm linking to my brother from Indiana, his contribution and question. However, times have changed and the world has become super global. and the world has really shrunk, that I mean, children are exposed to all kinds of things and all manner of information out there. And I just wanted to add my voice to your voice to say that parents have a lot of work to do. And every time I remember that I really want to have more kids in this age and time, I kind of get scared because I'm like, can I handle or can I manage everything that comes with training up a child in this age, in this AI age? So culture has to marry evolution. Culture has to marry development. And parents also have to quickly, as a matter of urgency, quickly, be on the same pedestal, if not the same pedestal, but somewhat making effort to understand the changes that is happening in the world so they can balance out all of this information so their children don't go through what a lot of us went through. That some of us are out, and I'm not just speaking for myself, I'm speaking for a lot of Nigerians, a lot of people on this platform. All of the childhood dramas and everything, we came out fine because of our resilience to say, you know what, I'm not going to allow this break me or destroy my future. But the Gen Alphas, then the Gen Z and the Gen Betas that will come, and the other gens behind, are the parents of today, are the potential parents of today ready for the complex management of training children in the near future that will help them advance all of the potential childhood adversities that will come with the evolving and innovative things happening in the world. So I just want to join my voice and say well done. And like everybody knows, I don't just want to talk about the challenges. I also want us to look at solutions. And this will also go back to Dr. Babafemi to say that on the new platform of the NDLA media on YouTube and probably other platforms, can we be deliberate about having, what do they call this thing again? Town hall meetings for parents in the respective places you have NDLA operations, so we can reach out to parents. Expose them to the new happenings, because we can talk for all we can. The things are happening rapidly is frightening, and I would not be afraid to say I am so scared for the next generation. I am so afraid, even as much as they would excel, super excel, I'm not sure of how their mental health and their mental health to be managed, or their psychological health to be managed. So thank you, Dr. Juliet. Absolutely great. And I want to also say that for everyone listening to us, if you're a parent now, also remember that you'll be a parent tomorrow. So begin to align yourself with what is required to help bring up your child healthy. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much there, Dr. Loretta. Dr. Loretta is the community psychologist, joins us every week on this platform from Chicago, Illinois. Thank you. Dr. Juliet, you want to say something to that, and then take the question from Obia Julu.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Loretta, for adding your voice to that. You've said it all, and I think I like your contributions in that regard. It's important for parents to recognize the times, to recognize that there's a place of culture and there's a place of, the new norms, the new normal, the new ways of doing things, and what our children are making sense of in their world and what we did. So thank you for that. And the question that was asked, if I got it, it says, can these coping skills help negate childhood adverse childhood experiences later in life. Is that what the question is all about?
Yes, I think so. But if I read again, can resilience and coping strategies learned in childhood help offset the negative impacts of adversities on mental health?
Yes. Um, Prevention programs in schools have shown to help adolescents and children who have gone through painful adverse experiences. One of them is one of the prevention programs in Nigeria is the Unplugged program, which is currently running in the 104 federal government colleges of Nigeria. It was implemented by the UNODC. It's a drug prevention program where, well, this is curriculum based, so it's taught in the classroom. It is also, it targets ages 12 to 14, and it helps children, it helps to equip children with these skills. It provides the avenue where children, the students or pupils are likely to discuss freely with their teachers after the implementation. They're likely to become assertive and speak in class. The outcome, it has been scientifically tested. It is a program, a prevention program that shows that no matter what the child must have gone through, they're likely to be reversed if they are equipped with these skills. Even though when you have very, very severe cases, they are directed to the experts or the school counselors to help to the child to, deal with that. And so it's important to also know that these these skills, coping skills, are not just trainings, and not just to make these adolescents to begin to change the way they behave. It depends. These skills, when a child or an adolescent is equipped with skills in a healthy environment, there's a chance that there will be delayed onset of drug use. And if there is delay in the onset of drug use, addiction is very unlikely. Research has shown that people who begin very late in life are likely to drop into addiction. It is when they start early, they're not set in their ways, which makes them vulnerable to their peers. They're not set in their brain development where they have good resources that have been stored, and therefore they have nothing to fall back on. They're not set in being very, very confident and having the refusal skills that will help them to deal with the media adverts, the television, the adverts we see, yes, media on our billboards. You see mentors or models like Davido, superstars out there, Two-Face and all. We see those people advertising certain alcohol, certain cigarettes. I don't want to generalize it, but I'm just using it by example. That when superstars that are these children's role models take on the stage, and these children are not developed to the point where they can sit back and say, no, even though I like this person, they cannot decipher between this person, I love their music, but I don't like alcohol use now, or I'm not going to use now. They don't have what it takes to differentiate between loving this superstar and selecting what to do that the superstar is doing and what not to do. And therefore, it's important that they're equipped with these skills early enough in life so that they're able to make informed decisions. They're able to, when they have the capacity and enablement to confront life, they can decide, well, I want to take smoke a cigarette, but two, and in which case they're doing it for a particular reason in adulthood, not when they are still children, they don't understand the consequences, they don't understand what it means, and they just delve into it because they lack what it takes to understand the challenges that are there, the consequences that can arise as a result of that kind of use. So these skills help them to stop the use or to refuse to use or to delay the onset of the use. Any way you put it, it is to say that these children should grow properly as children. They should make sense of their world. They should be able to live in a way that if they take an action, it's because they thought through the action. It's because they were able to analyze and assess the situation before they took that step. And that is very helpful as they learn to interact with their world, whether in their career, whether it's in businesses, whether it's with interacting with family members, whether it's with colleagues. They need to get to the point where they can own up and be responsible and accountable for their actions because they first processed the situation, they reflected on the situation, and they thought to themselves, this is what is right for me to do at this point in time, not out of confusion, not out of ambivalence, not out of the fact that I just need to do this because somebody else is doing it, or because I'm angry and I can't control my emotions, I have to just do it, or because I'm excited, there's a party, I just need to drink and get drunk and drive home drunk. I mean, it's important that coping skills should come handy. But people who grew up with adverse childhood experiences and they're still having to deal with certain issues that have made them dysfunctional, or so to say, that are disturbing to them, I will say, please seek professional help. Talk to a counselor. Talk to an expert, because they're likely to help you to deal with those adverse experiences. There are a lot of people that are moving around today with those experiences, just like Loretta said. It's important to know whether you have fully adjusted from these adverse exposures as a child. It's important to understand yourself and to know there are people who are out there and are still having nightmares from their childhood and they can't even relate. There are people who have no self-esteem. They can't speak out even in their offices, and it's because of the way they were brought up. There are people who are married. When they're angry, they can't channel and discuss with their spouses. They walk out of the house and even go and get drunk before they come back. That's a difficulty. That's a lack of coping mechanism. And so it's important that we own up, remove the stigma, see someone that is an expert or a professional who will help you to deal with these issues so that you live a life that is very, very positive and focus oriented.
All right, thank you there.
Thank you, Femi.
Thank you very much, Dr. Juliet. Let me quickly take this message from Dr. Hasia Adamubiu. Dr. Hasia Adamubiu joins us via our YouTube channel. Well done, Dr. Babafemi. Thank you, Dr. Hasia. I have been with you on YouTube. Yes, I know that. Very well delivered session by Dr. Juliet. That's a commendation coming for you from Dr. Hasia Adamubiu there. Then let me read some more messages. Okay, Pascal Ewegbu says, I want to commend the guest speaker for today's topic. She nailed it powerfully and I very much enjoyed it. Thank you very much, Ma. Okay. Benga Paul Daramola says, well done, madam. Abib Pro says, okay, Abib is asking a different thing. Okay, Sunday blessing. Good day to everyone. All protocol observed. Okay, we collect all the protocols as well. I'm glad to be part of this discussion. It's very educative. God bless you, ma. All right, thank you very much. Deja vu. Greetings, everyone. All protocols observed. Why are we observing protocol here today? Okay, let me read. Let me get this one also. This is from Akim. Akim says, this conversation is worth my staying awake this time of the night. Akim actually joins us from Australia. He's that's midnight there now, around past 1 a.m. or so. Um, okay, this is what my staying awake this time of the night. I'm glad this conversation is recorded and I can listen again over the weekend and share. Thank you very much to the guest speaker. Now I would like to ask this question. I think this may be our last question on this space now. Okay, he's coming for gender. Now, what are the gender differences in how childhood adversities influence mental health and substance abuse outcomes? I think he's bringing in gender now. Dr. Juliet, did you get that?
No, please, can you repeat that, please?
Okay, what are the gender differences? Yeah, what are the gender differences in how childhood adversities influence mental health and substance abuse outcomes? I think talking about male, female, how the difference in gender influence or impact on their mental health and substance abuse outcomes. That is those that have gone through childhood adversities, whether their gender have an impact on how they react to the consequences in adolescence. That's, I think, what he's asking.
All right, thank you, Femi. By way of responding to this, I'll just add that childhood adversities, the gender differences that may arise from such would be from probably the parents, the culture, and society. For instance, within the same home, you have children, and one of them, because there are no resources, the boy child is seen as more important than the girl child. And so the boy is sent to school with all the textbooks, with all the materials, and the girl child, the girl child's education is not just delayed, but it is accompanied by almost nothing. You can imagine a situation where you have children, they all go to school, they come back, the girl child comes back and starts to cook dinner alone, starts to wash the plates alone, starts to, receive the punishments for not meeting up with those chores alone, while the boy goes to the football field to play ball because he's a boy. The girl is likely to be affected more than the boy. Because first, her perception is this is discrimination. And we know what discrimination does. Discrimination allows for violence. It allows for negative behaviors. The fact that you look down on someone, you're likely to punish them. The fact that you look down on the girl child or you look down on one member of the family, you're likely to be abusive towards that child. Whether it's a word, whether it's the parent, whether it's the guardian, the more you identify that the boy child is more important and has more value than the girl child, the higher the chances of being very, very, unresponsive to the girl child. So, for I don't have any love from nobody is listening to me. I want to speak, they only listen to the voice. Who am I? I don't have value. And my value is only when I finish school, I'll just marry. My value is seen from if things are not going out well with me, nobody cares. The girl child is more likely to be exposed to these adversities. Sometimes these are the gender biases and the gender differences that are likely to expose or predispose a particular gender to certain behaviors than some, or certain disorders or drug use than others. It can be the other way around. Because the child is seen as very, very valuable, nobody is giving attention. And if nobody is giving attention, they can go into substance use and maladaptive behaviors without anybody noticing. If the boy child feels, I have a stake, I'm going to inherit my father's properties, I'm in charge, they're likely not to subject themselves to authority. They're likely not to be compliant in rules, in obeying rules and regulations. And so what society does sometimes, and our cultural beliefs about the girl child and the boy child, is it exposes these girls to adverse childhood experiences that are likely to come up in ugly ways. And if they come down with depression or they come down with anxiety disorders, I mean, reflecting back to this upbringing, sometimes it's even difficult because speaking about mental health disorders is still almost like a taboo. These experiences, it is always very, very likely that one of the genders will suffer at a particular point in time because of the gender differences. However, in coping, there are certain mental health disorders that are more with particular gender than others. That notwithstanding, coping will be different for different gender. For instance, it has been known and seen that girls are likely to share their issues and challenges with their peers than boys. Girls are likely to talk to their mother, they're likely to open up to their friends, they're likely to talk to their pastors about experiences of life, especially with regards to marriage, with regards to school, with regards to the difficulties that they're facing economically and otherwise than men. So coping will depend on the couple.
Okay, there we have it. I think, Francis, are we good?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry for the
Okay, please. Okay, please go ahead. You can then hand up now with your closing remarks, please.
Yes. So it's important to note that the way we treat a child will depend on a lot of factors and will have different consequences later in life. As parents, we've gone past the position or the situation where we look at our children and wish them away. If a child is coming to say, I saw this on social media and I would like to, don't yell at them. Don't push them away. Let them become our resource for the times. With parenting, sometimes we have to engage reverse mentoring, especially with the current situations. I'm training and bringing up my child in the way he should grow. I should also learn something with the child. Their age group has so many resources that we can tap from. Technology, creativity, being present with certain things, digital And otherwise, we need to learn things from these people. They have a lot to offer to us too. They are not empty brains. They are not just children that we gave birth to that we need to just pour something in them so that they become good. They also have value. We need to hear them out. We need to understand their pains, their weaknesses, and their strengths so that we are able to build them. We're able to provide the enabling environment for them to thrive. See, this generation has excessive visual stimulators, emotional stimulators than there were 20 years ago. They have more than tripled. What we used to face was just letter writing. 30 years ago, it was the post office. Before you could talk to another person at the other side of the world, you need to pay at the phone booth to talk. You needed to just watch what and listen to what your pastor will say. Today, it is on everybody's palms, including these children. Even if you're not providing the phones, their friends have the phones. Even if you're not providing the channels, they know where to access them. You can't beat them at their game. The best you can do is join them and move together in a way that you continue to add value while you listen to them. Meanwhile, as a parent, your voice of control from time to time needs to come out. They need to know when daddy is serious. They need to know that mommy frowns at this. And when they comply, reward them. If they impress you, give them a hug. Tell them I love you. Show them that you are present no matter what. Even if you do the most terrible thing, come and meet me, let's talk. Even if the world turns against you, I will be here as your parent. And that's what builds the confidence, the self-esteem, and what gives them the voice to face the world. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much there, Dr. Juliet Pajok, a clinical psychologist and lecturer at the University of Jos Plateau. She's equally a drug prevention expert with the United Nations Office on Drug and Crime, UNODC, consultant to UNDP, and an adolescent life skills instructor. She's indeed appreciate your presentation and your responses on our topic for today, understanding childhood adversities, mental health outcomes, and substance abuse. That has really gone well today. And I would love to employ all of us and those who would have to listen to this conversation later to please share this far and wide so that especially for our parents and those that want to be parents tomorrow, so that they can learn quite a lot. I must say that I have quite a lot of takeaways from this conversation today. On that note, I'd like to appreciate all of our compatriots, all of those that joined us from the US, from UK, Europe, Asia, and those that joined us across Africa, and especially our compatriots across Nigeria. We appreciate all of you very well. I know Dr. Abdullah struggled to speak, but I think his network was not too strong, so he had to go back to the listeners corner. Thank you very much, Dr. Abdullah. Thank you very much, Loretta from Chicago. There, Loretta is always as constant as the morning star. Thank you, Professor Rosemary Ogu. Thank you, Professor Joseph Kinani. Thank you, Dr. Asia Adamobil. Thank you very much, all our compatriots across the world where you listen from. We appreciate you. I also like to appreciate my colleagues on the end who have been supporting me behind the scene. Talking of Rita, in Lagos, Shidi Musa, Francis Dele, Mahmoud Val, Kumbi, Neta, who is there again? Okay, also Victor in Lagos, Philemon, OJ, Vina, Jane, and the rest of you guys know that I appreciate all of you. Thank you. It's past the hour already, so we just have to, unfortunately, those requesting for Mike, we will not be able to answer you again today. Let's come back again next Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. is the time. Let's come early so that we can have the opportunity to make our contributions before the close of the program. Once again, we'd like to appreciate our guest speaker today, Dr. Juliet Kwajok, a clinical psychologist and lecturer at the University of Jos Plateau State. She's indeed giving a very good account of herself. I mean, the commendations coming from online and everywhere across the world indeed shows how well appreciated Dr. Juliet and her presentation is today. Indeed, we are grateful. And on behalf of the Chairman Chief Executive of NDLA, Brigadier General Mohammed Buba Mara, retired, would like to once again say thank you to Dr. Juliet Kwajok. Would definitely be getting in touch with you. Thank you for your time with us today. On that note, I'd like to ask us to please enjoy our weekend, but in moderation. Let's be careful. Let's not do things that will put us in trouble. I'll see you again next week. My name remains Femi Babafemi, and then hand over to my colleague at the other end, Mahmoud, to do the final closing. Back from here.
Wherever, however, we go, and no matter, whatever, we go, don't do, it is sweet to you, but judgely, it is silent killer, honey, no they look face, no they look face, give yourself a break, even what you don't do, if you die today, I miss you, don't do, no matter, whatever, because don't do drugs. If anybody giving you